Welcome to North Korea, the world's most secretive, bizarre, and dictator-obsessed country.
Let me try.
And welcome to some of the wildest stories this regime has to offer.
New comrade, you have to be big Russian bear to drive this.
Like the time they kidnapped a foreign director just to make better movies. Or how their leaders secretly love American pop culture, while banning it for everyone else. Then there's Kim Jong-un's bizarre friendship with Dennis Rodman. Oh, and let's not forget Kim Jong-il's greatest superpower. He never needed to use the toilet. Ever. Just a few of the truly bizarre stories created by this crazy regime, featured in this video. It all started in 1948, when Kim Il-sung took control and created the dictatorship that still rules today. Since then, North Korea has been run by a never-ending Kim family reunion. Kim Il-sung, the eternal president. Kim Jong-il, the dear leader. Kim Jong-un, the guy in charge now. And here's where it gets really weird. According to North Korea, the first two Kims never actually died. Yep, Kim Il-sung is still the country's eternal president, even though he's been dead since '94. And Kim Jong-il, officially, he's just watching over North Korea in spirit. Basically, ghost management. Why? Because in North Korea, the Kims aren't just leaders. They're treated like gods. And you can't have a god just die, right? But trust me, that's just the beginning of the insanity. Let's dive into the 10 of the strangest, most ridiculous facts about North Korea. And if you stick around until the end, I've got 3 bonus facts that are even crazier. Let's get started. What if I told you that one of the most ruthless dictators in history, the man who starved his own people, built labor camps, and hated the United States, was secretly obsessed with Hollywood, American basketball, and even slasher films?
We weren't doing anything.
Well, that's exactly the case with Kim Jong-il, the former supreme leader of North Korea. Publicly, he despised Western culture, but privately, he was basically a Hollywood superfan. Kim Jong-il wasn't just a casual movie watcher, he was a full-blown film addict. His private collection reportedly included over 20,000 foreign movies, which is wild considering North Koreans aren't even allowed to watch foreign films. And his taste? Pure Hollywood blockbuster. He was obsessed with James Bond movies, even though North Korea was always the bad guy in spy films. He loved Rambo, a franchise that started as an anti-war film, but later turned into a full-blown action series about American military power. He binged Western films, despite constantly warning his people that America was evil. And somehow, he was a fan of horror movies like Friday the 13th. Imagine a dictator watching Jason Voorhees and taking notes. Terrifying. Kim wasn't just a fan, he thought he was an expert. He even wrote an entire book on film theory, where he claimed that movies should serve as weapons of ideology, and that he alone understood the true art of filmmaking. And because he hated how bad North Korean movies were, he decided to fix it himself. How? By kidnapping a South Korean film director and forcing him to make movies for the regime. But we'll save that insane story for later in the video. Hollywood addiction wasn't his only guilty pleasure. Kim Jong-il loved basketball. He reportedly idolized Michael Jordan and even ordered his officials to get NBA footage for him. In fact, when US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright visited North Korea in 2000, she brought him a basketball signed by Michael Jordan. And Kim was so happy, he put it on display like a trophy. So, let's get this straight. Kim Jong-il banned Western culture in North Korea, but he personally hoarded Hollywood blockbusters, American sports, and slasher flicks like a total fanboy. And while North Koreans were stuck watching state-approved propaganda, he was secretly binge-watching James Bond and cheering for the Chicago Bulls. If that's not dictator-level hypocrisy, I don't know what is. So the next time someone tells you that movies don't influence people, just remember, a real-life dictator shaped his entire worldview based on the films he watched. And somehow, Rambo and Bond didn't convince him to switch sides. Think K-pop is all about flashy idols and catchy beats? Well, North Korea has its own girl group, personally handpicked by Kim Jong-un.
You, and you.
Meet Moranbong, North Korea's state-approved K-pop band, where the only thing bigger than their hair is the propaganda in their lyrics. Unlike South Korea's K-pop stars, who train for years and compete to debut, Moranbong's members were reportedly selected by Kim Jong-un himself. Their job? Perform patriotic songs, praise the regime, and pretend North Korea is a paradise. Moranbong concerts mix military uniforms, violin solos, and giant missile graphics in the background, because nothing says girl group like ballistic missiles. Their biggest hit? A song dedicated to Kim Jong-un, of course. So, while South Korean K-pop is all about love and heartbreak, North Korea's version is just one long love letter to the supreme leader. BTS? No. In North Korea, it's all about KJU. If you thought Kim Jong-il's Hollywood addiction was weird, just wait. His son, Kim Jong-un, took it to another level. Because while North Korea's leader loves to present himself as a tough nuclear-armed dictator, behind closed doors, he's basically a guy who just wants to eat junk food, watch Disney movies, and shoot some hoops. First off, Kim Jong-un is a huge Disney fan, which is hilarious, considering North Korea doesn't even have copyright laws. In 2012, he staged a live performance featuring Mickey Mouse, Minnie, Winnie the Pooh, and other Disney characters. Except, without Disney's permission, because nothing screams respected world leader like bootlegging a children's show. It was such a bizarre move that even North Korean state TV had to admit it was unusual. But let's be real, what was Disney going to do, sue North Korea? Good luck collecting those royalties, Mickey. Kim isn't just a fan of Western entertainment, he also loves Western food. His biggest weakness? Swiss cheese. While North Koreans struggle with food shortages, Kim allegedly imports massive amounts of Swiss cheese to satisfy his obsession. He even reportedly tried to make his own Swiss cheese in North Korea, but it failed because, well, it's North Korea, and let's not forget his love for fast food. Rumor has it that Kim once tried to open a North Korean version of McDonald's, which maybe should have been called McKim's. But Kim's biggest obsession? Basketball. Just like his dad, he idolized the NBA growing up, and his favorite player, Dennis Rodman. Now, we'll get into the absolute insanity of their friendship later, but let's just say this. One of the only Americans who gets invited to North Korea is a guy known for rainbow hair, wild parties, and breaking backboards. Because if you're a brutal dictator, but also a hardcore Bulls fan, you make it happen. So, just like his dad, Kim Jong-un spends his days banning Western culture for everyone else, while secretly binging it himself. Publicly, America is evil. Privately, Mickey Mouse, NBA highlights, and unlimited cheese.
Who said cheese?
In North Korea, it's all about do as I say, not as I do. Ever had a bad haircut? Well, at least you got to choose it. Because in North Korea, you don't get to decide your hairstyle. The government literally has a list of approved haircuts. And if yours isn't on the list, congratulations, you're a criminal. Welcome to the world's strictest barbershop. North Korean propaganda claims that personal style is dangerous because it can lead to individualism, which, in a dictatorship, is a big no-no. So, to make sure everyone looks properly communist, the government issued an official list of approved hairstyles. For men, you get about 10 choices, most of them short, boring, and completely uninspired. For women, you have about 18 styles, but don't get too excited. Most of them look like they were pulled straight from a 1950s yearbook. And if you thought dyeing your hair was an option, forget it. Only black hair is allowed, because apparently blonde highlights are a Western conspiracy. Now, you'd think that if everyone has to follow the same rules, they'd be allowed to copy the Supreme Leader's iconic, ridiculous hairstyle. Nope. Kim Jong-un's hair is actually banned for regular people. Apparently, his weird, high and tight, gravity-defying cut is too special for commoners. So while everyone else is stuck with basic government-issued trims, Kim gets to rock a style that looks like a mix between a failed flat top and a 90s boy band reject. Because why have equality when you can have dictatorship fashion rules? Now, you might be wondering, do they actually check? Yes, they do. There have been reports of haircut inspections, where officials literally patrol the streets and universities to make sure no one is sporting forbidden hairstyles. And if you're caught with an illegal haircut, you could be publicly shamed, fined, or even forced to get an on-the-spot correction. Imagine a guy with scissors just walking around North Korea like an enforcer from the fashion police. So, next time you get a bad trim, just be grateful. At least you had a choice. Alright, as promised, let's talk about the wildest celebrity-dictator friendship in history. Because while most world leaders build alliances with presidents, kings, or even billionaires, Kim Jong-un decided his closest American connection would be Dennis Rodman. Yes, 5-time NBA champion, bad boy of basketball, professional party animal, and the only guy who could pull off rainbow hair before it was cool. How did this happen? Well, buckle up, because this story is pure insanity. So, we already know Kim Jong-un grew up idolizing the Chicago Bulls, which honestly is the most relatable thing about him. And while most people would, just buy a jersey or watch old game highlights, Kim had a different idea. He wanted to meet a player in person. In 2013, Kim's government invited the Harlem Globetrotters to North Korea for a basketball diplomacy event. And somehow, tagging along for the ride was Dennis Rodman. Rodman, not one to turn down a free trip, went to Pyongyang, met Kim Jong-un, and, no joke, they instantly became best friends. They drank together, they laughed together. They even sang karaoke together. Because nothing says international diplomacy like a dictator belting out love songs after a few too many drinks. Rodman later described Kim as a friend for life, and even called him a great dad, which is kind of wild considering that most of North Korea was starving at the time. But this wasn't a one-time thing. Rodman kept coming back. In 2014, he organized a basketball game for Kim's birthday, where he led a team of former NBA players in a match against North Korean athletes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
He even brought Kim a special gift, a copy of Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. Foreshadowing? Maybe. And during one visit, Rodman broke down in tears on live TV, saying, "I love Kim Jong-un."
The world, he's my friend. I love him.
And I said to everybody, I said, the door will open. And it was amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It was amazing. It's amazing.
At this point, the friendship was so bizarre that even the US government had no idea how to react. Was Rodman a diplomatic genius? Or just a guy who partied too hard in Pyongyang? Let's be real, nobody understands this friendship. Rodman himself admitted that he doesn't talk politics with Kim. They just drink, watch basketball, and hang out, which honestly is probably for the best. And while their bromance has cooled down in recent years, one thing's for sure. Of all the weird things about North Korea, the fact that its supreme leader's best American friend is Dennis Rodman might just be the weirdest. NASA? Overrated. SpaceX? Amateurs. Because North Korea once claimed to do the impossible. They sent an astronaut to the sun. Yep, you heard that right. The actual sun. That 5,500-degree fireball in the sky that instantly incinerates anything that gets too close? Yeah, that one. But don't worry, they had a genius plan. This groundbreaking space mission was supposedly announced by North Korean state media, boasting that a young astronaut named Hung Il-gong traveled to the sun and back in just 18 hours. Because in North Korea, even the speed of light follows Kim Jong-un's orders. How did they pull off such a scientific miracle? Simple. They sent him at night. That's right. According to this totally real and not at all ridiculous claim, he avoided the sun's deadly heat by traveling when it wasn't shining. Genius, right? Now, obviously, this is complete nonsense. You can't avoid the sun by flying to it at night. That's like saying you won't get wet if you jump in a pool when you're blindfolded. And North Korea doesn't even have the technology to send a person into orbit. So, where did this hilarious rumor come from? Some say it was an actual North Korean propaganda piece, while others believe it started as a satirical joke that people took too seriously. Either way, it's 100% fake, but 200% hilarious. So, did North Korea really send a man to the sun? No, but if they ever try again, I'm sure they'll find a way to do it, without breaking a sweat. Some people lie on their resumes, some exaggerate their achievements, and then there's Kim Jong-il. North Korean propaganda didn't just call him a great leader, they claimed he was a literal superhuman. According to state media, Kim Jong-il invented burritos, played golf like a god, and, most disturbingly, never pooped. Yes, this is real. Let's break it down. First up, let's talk about Kim Jong-il's legendary, totally fake, golf skills. According to North Korean reports, Kim played golf once in his life, just once. But in that single game, he allegedly shot 38 under par, which is beyond impossible. Hit 11 hole-in-ones in one round. For reference, Tiger Woods has had 3 in his entire career. And after this god-tier performance, he immediately retired from golf forever. In reality, the course was empty, and the only witnesses were government officials who probably wanted to live. Because when a dictator asks if he just played the best round of golf in history, you say yes. Now, you might think Mexican food was invented somewhere in Mexico. Wrong. According to North Korea, Kim Jong-il invented burritos. In 2011, state media claimed that Kim personally created wheat wraps filled with meat and vegetables, making him the true father of the burrito. Sorry, Mexico. And in case you're wondering, no, burritos aren't even common in North Korea. The average citizen probably doesn't even know what one looks like. But somehow, Kim Jong-il was a burrito visionary. But if you thought those claims were crazy, just wait. North Korea also insisted that Kim Jong-il never used the bathroom. According to official propaganda, Kim was so perfect, so advanced, so genetically superior that he never needed to defecate. That's right, while the rest of us are out here dealing with Taco Bell regrets, Kim Jong-il was apparently built different, which raises a lot of questions. Where did all the burritos go? Did he just absorb food like a nuclear reactor? And who actually believed this? But in North Korea, when state media tells you the leader never poops, you just nod and pretend it makes sense. Hollywood directors get hired. South Korean directors, they get kidnapped. In the 1970s, North Korea's film industry was so bad that Kim Jong-il came up with a brilliant, insane solution. If you can't make good movies, just steal the people who can. And that's exactly what he did. South Korean director Shin Sang-ok and his ex-wife, actress Choi Eun-hee, were both abducted by North Korean agents and dragged to Pyongyang. Their job? Make blockbuster films for the regime, or else. Once in captivity, Shin had no choice but to work, directing several state-approved films under Kim Jong-il's personal supervision. Because what's a dictatorship without a self-proclaimed film critic? Some of the most notorious films he made in North Korea included An Emissary of No Return, 1984, a spy thriller about a Japanese diplomat who switches sides and embraces communism. Subtle messaging, huh? Salt, 1985, a drama about a poor Korean woman suffering under Japanese rule, meant to fuel anti-Japan sentiment. Love, Love, My Love, 1985, a romance film featuring the first ever on-screen kiss in North Korean cinema. Scandalous by North Korean standards, but Kim Jong-il approved it. And of course, the legendary Pulgasari, 1985, North Korea's Godzilla ripoff, featuring a metal-eating monster that topples a corrupt ruler. Gee, I wonder why Kim didn't get the irony. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-il acted like Shin's personal film professor, constantly lecturing him on cinema and claiming North Korea was the only country making true revolutionary films. Sure, Kim, whatever helps you sleep at night. After 8 years of captivity, Shin and Choi finally escaped while on a trip to Vienna, ditching their North Korean handlers and seeking asylum at the US Embassy. Their first act of freedom? Exposing North Korea's insane film industry to the world. So, next time a Hollywood director complains about studio interference, just remind them that at least their producer didn't kidnap them. Oh, and here's the craziest part. Shin and Choi were actually divorced before they got kidnapped. They split in 1976, but while being held hostage in North Korea, they got remarried in 1983. And somehow, they stayed together until Shin died in 2006. So, just to recap, they survived divorce, North Korea, and an actual dictatorship, and still ended up back together. I guess Kim Jong-il wasn't just making propaganda films, he was also playing matchmaker. And there you have it, 10 of the strangest, most ridiculous facts about North Korea. But wait, as promised, we're not done yet, because if you thought that was bizarre, just wait until you hear these 3 bonus facts. Want to get arrested in North Korea? Just wear jeans. Denim is banned because it's seen as a symbol of Western capitalism, aka the enemy. So while the rest of the world rocks Levi's, North Koreans are stuck with state-approved pants. Fashion crime? More like fashion dictatorship. Despite his ruthless rule, Kim Jong-un has been described as having a surprisingly soft, feminine side, and that's not by accident. In traditional Korean culture, a great leader isn't just strong. He also needs to show grace, elegance, and balance. Kim's carefully groomed eyebrows, smooth skin, and delicate heel-to-toe walk aren't just personal quirks. They help him project an image of wisdom and control, traits that have been respected in Korea for centuries. But make no mistake, this gentle dictator still runs one of the most brutal regimes in modern history. In 2017, Kim Jong-un's estranged half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, who was thought to have fallen out of favor after embarrassing the regime in 2001 with a failed attempt to visit Tokyo Disneyland with a false passport, was assassinated in a Malaysian airport. How? 2 women smeared his face with a deadly nerve agent, VX, in broad daylight. North Korea denied involvement, sure, but the attack was so brazen and bizarre, it felt like something out of a spy movie. And just like that, one less Kim to worry about. And that's it. Some of the most bizarre, unbelievable, and downright ridiculous facts about North Korea. From kidnapped directors to forbidden denim, from basketball diplomacy to a dictator who supposedly never needed a toilet. North Korea truly is one of a kind. But if you think history is only about crazy dictators, think again. Because some of the greatest discoveries of all time are still being made today. Check out our video on the 10 greatest archaeological discoveries of 2024, where we break down the most mind-blowing finds of the year. Click here to watch, and I'll see you over there.